of the arrest from earlier this morning. It happened inside an apartment off North Camp Creek Parkway. Byrd was found shot multiple times in the back almost 2 weeks ago.
The plane crash that killed a rising star in the world of music and film. Reaction today after Aaliyah and 8 others were killed when their plane went down.
In the end, everyone has to face death, even those black stars wrapped up in fame, power, and money. But not every death is peaceful. A lot of times it comes with some chilling haunts.
And the stories I'm about to tell here will show you the most horrifying deaths of 33 famous black people.
Some got trapped in a plane fire, bodies mangled. Some suffocated in their sleep just from a few spoonfuls of cough syrup. Others got caught in a self-destructive spiral, even plunging from buildings dozens of meters high. Each death leaves a bitter taste, a harsh reminder of how fragile life is and how cruel fate can be, when that glow of glory can't shield anyone from death's scythe. 33. Billy Stewart. The car plunged into the icy river, drowning the legendary scat singer. Billy Stewart was a rare soul singer, famous for his explosive and energetic scat style. He left a strong mark on the charts, respected by critics and remembered by music fans as a unique talent. On the afternoon of January 17, 1970, the air in North Carolina was chilly, the highway near Smithfield unusually empty. Billy Stewart was behind the wheel of his brand new Ford Thunderbird, the shiny black paint reflecting the gray sky. In the car were 3 close bandmates, just a regular trip after some tiring tour stops. The car sped along, engine humming steadily, then suddenly everything spun out of control. The Thunderbird lost traction, the body skidded sideways, sliding across the median. Metal slammed into the concrete bridge abutment with a piercing screech that tore through the air. The impact flung the whole car off the road, straight down into the rushing Neuse River below. Freezing water flooded the cabin instantly, drowning out the screams, snuffing out the lights and the lives. The car sank slowly into the murky depths. The 4 inside were trapped in the twisted metal wreckage, crying out in desperation, but unable to escape.
It took hours for rescue crews to pull the car up from the water like you're seeing here. But sadly, inside that car, there were no breaths left.
The tragic accident forever closed the brilliant journey of Billy Stewart, a one-of-a-kind scat voice when he was just 32 years old. 32. Bubba Smith. The football giant collapsed from weight loss pills. Bubba Smith was once an icon of American football strength, a legendary NFL star, who later crossed over to acting with his massive build, becoming a familiar face on screen. Fame, money, and glory followed him for decades. On August 3, 2011, Bubba's home in Los Angeles was sunk in heavy silence. When the housekeeper walked in, Bubba was already lying motionless on the floor. His huge body was cold, no sign of life. The autopsy revealed a haunting story. His system had a massive amount of the weight loss drug phentermine, a powerful stimulant that cranked his heart rate to dangerous levels. His heart, already enlarged from years of physical strain, was pushed to the brink by the drug's effects. Arteries hardened severely, blood flow struggling more and more. The stimulant made his heart race wildly, pounding, frantic, like it wanted to burst out of his chest. His body heated up, sweat pouring out, every breath turning into a heavy wheeze. In those moments, the physique that was once his pride became a burden. Bubba's passing left a deep lesson about the cost of abusing stimulants to hold on to an enviable body at age 66. 31. Thomas Jefferson Byrd. Street bullets ended the veteran actor in the dead of night in Atlanta. Thomas Jefferson Byrd was a seasoned actor, familiar on stage and screen, who worked multiple times with Spike Lee and left a deep impression on audiences with his gritty, multi-layered roles.
Around 1:45 a.m. on October 3, 2020, the Belvedere Avenue area in southwest Atlanta was swallowed in thick darkness.
I'm right there on that quiet street. with weak lights casting down on the cold asphalt.
Thomas Jefferson Byrd showed up in the middle of the night, walking home from a familiar bar. Then a sudden shooting shattered the neighborhood's silence. Multiple shots hit him, dropping him right there. It all happened so fast, he had no time to react, no time to dodge. When authorities arrived, Thomas Jefferson Byrd had stopped breathing. His body lay face down on the empty street. The killer was caught not long after. According to police investigation info, it stemmed from something trivial. Just a few tense minutes after two people accidentally bumped into each other on the road. But it ended with a life lost. Thomas Jefferson Byrd's death at 70 left a big void for his family, friends, and the arts community, while exposing the terrifying fragility of life in places where street violence always lurks. 30. Glattis Horton, the Marvelettes singer, quietly passed in a nursing home, forgotten after severe strokes. Glattis Horton was the lead singer of the Marvelettes, the girl group that made a deep mark in Motown history, topping charts and paving the way for generations of female artists after them.
On January 26, 2011, inside a nursing home in Sherman Oaks, California, there were
witnesses, just white walls and the familiar smell of disinfectant you could find in any hospital.
Glattis Horton, 66, was lying in a room there, her body frail after years battling illness. In previous years, 5 strokes hit one after another, cruelly stripping away her ability to function normally. Each fall weakened her a bit more. Her once agile movements vanished, her powerful voice now just interrupted breaths. She couldn't even talk. The nursing home room became her prison, forcing her to watch time pass, day by day, in loneliness and regret. For the past 6 months, Glattis Horton had been mostly bedridden. Her cloudy eyes stared blankly at the ceiling, quietly drifting with distant memories. She remembered packed stages, all-night recording sessions, moments when her name echoed across radio stations. On the night of January 26th, another stroke struck. Glattis Horton helplessly convulsed on the bed with ragged breaths, then passed after 15 minutes. Death came amid the indifference of the industry that once celebrated her and the coldness of the family she had once cared for wholeheartedly. 29. Daryl Banks, when jealousy turned into a fatal shot. Daryl Banks was an emotional soul singer with a heartfelt voice and highly praised recordings, seen as a promising face in the late 60s soul wave. On the night of February 24, 1970, inside a locked house in Detroit, Daryl Banks discovered the woman he'd been with for 3 years was seeing another man. He caught them right on the living room sofa. Jealousy exploded. Banks confronted them in a suffocating, heavy atmosphere. The problem was, the man he faced was Aaron Bullock, a white off-duty cop carrying a gun and authority. In the argument, the gun was drawn without hesitation. A deafening shot ripped through the night. The bullet hit Daryl Banks straight on. He clutched his neck, body losing balance, then collapsed. Just seconds later, he died instantly. The woman he loved just watched indifferently without calling for help right away. The death at 32 came in a cruel way beyond imagination. The shooting sparked fierce debates, digging into police violence, abuse of power, and loss of emotional control. But in the end, the perpetrator escaped justice, never paying for his actions. 28. Lee Thompson Young, a shot rang out in a locked apartment. The Disney star collapsed in despair. Lee Thompson Young was a familiar face on Disney Channel, rising brightly as Jet Jackson, and later making his mark on American TV as a serious, professional young actor trusted by colleagues.
On the morning of August 19, 2013, his apartment in North Hollywood, Los Angeles, was still quiet as usual.
Neighbors were used to Lee Thompson Young living quietly.
No one noticed anything wrong until the Rizzoli and Isles film crew waited and he didn't show up for his scheduled call time. His manager had to call the police to check because his phone wasn't picking up. When his door was opened, everyone froze. Lee was lying motionless next to the sofa. Beside the body was an automatic gun. The coroner's report showed the bullet ended his life cleanly, decisively, intentionally. Details later revealed a silent battle lasting years. Lee Thompson Young had lived with bipolar disorder and severe depression that few knew about. He took meds regularly, still showed up to work on time, still appeared on camera with his usual calm. But it turned out that stable exterior hit a quiet collapse inside. Finally, when his jinction hit rock bottom, Lee Thompson Young chose to end it all at 29, leaving behind a career still on the rise. 27. Don Cornelius, a shot in the bedroom, ended the Soul Train legend's life, painful and alone to the last minute. Don Cornelius was the man behind Soul Train, the music show that changed how soul music and black culture appeared on American T5. He built an entertainment empire, launching countless artists and becoming a quiet power icon of an era. On the morning of February 1st, 2012, his house in Sherman Oaks was sunk in heavy silence. Right in the living room, Don Cornelius had passed, still holding a handgun. When his ex-wife stopped by to visit and found his body, it was too late to save anything. For years before, his body had been tormented nonstop. Brain surgery left debilitating headaches like hammer blows. Memory started fading. Images that were once his pride, vibrant stages, the Soul Train rolling through decades, grew hazy in his mind. He couldn't control his life anymore. By that morning, the despair had probably peaked. One shot closed it all at 75, when a man used to controlling everything couldn't stand the helplessness from endless pain and fading memory. 26. Simone Battle. The noose tightened around her stage dreams. Simone Battle was a young, promising face in pop music, a member of GRL, expected to become a new icon with her sweet voice and wholesome image. On September 5, 2014, inside her bedroom in a small house in Los Angeles, Simone Battle was found hanging from the ceiling, the rope tied tight to a crossbeam. Her face was purple, eyes wide open, body cold. For years, Simone's life had slid under pressure, and maybe this was her way to escape. When GRL disbanded, music plans fell apart. Unsteady income weighed on her daily with financial worries. The stage lights went out, she felt abandoned. Depression ate away at her spirit, step by step pulling her from friends, from faith in the future. On that fateful morning, the rope tightening around her throat fully closed off all dreams and nightmares for the 25-year-old girl. Her passing is a bitter reminder of fame's cost and the brutality in the cutthroat entertainment world. 25. Donny Hathaway. A horrifying freefall from the 15th floor, the soul genius shattered in mental darkness. Donny Hathaway was a rare soul voice, talented songwriter, and arranger, leaving recordings that touched the deepest emotions, making a strong mark in contemporary music history. On the evening of January 13, 1979, at the Essex House Hotel in New York, Donny Hathaway was in a room on the 15th floor. He'd just discussed a promising recording session. Then, the window was carefully removed, the glass pane neatly placed on the bed as if he was still lucid enough to arrange things. Just minutes after stepping to the windy open window, his body plummeted straight down to the cold sidewalk below. When paramedics arrived, he had stopped breathing. Everyone hearing the news was stunned, but that death didn't come in an impulsive moment. Over a decade before, paranoid schizophrenia had quietly gnawed at his mind, unknown to most. Sudden panic attacks, twisted thoughts made him suspicious of everything. Trust eroded, even with closest companions on his life path. Creative pressure, packed schedules, and long treatments wore down his endurance. On that fateful afternoon in the high room overlooking the city, Donny Hathaway believed he was being followed by bad guys, cornered, and the window was the only way out. The end came at 33, closing a legend's life in a cruel way beyond imagination, leaving an unfillable void for family, friends, and music lovers. 24. Frankie Lymon. The needle closed the teen prodigy's life in a cold bathroom. Frankie Lymon was a rare music phenomenon in doo-wop, rising like a teen fever with his high-pitched voice, bright stage face, and hits that shook America, opening the era of young idols in pop music. On the morning of February 27, 1968, in a small bathroom at his grandmother's house in Harlem, dim light cast down on the cold tile floor. Frankie Lymon was slumped on the ground, body stiff and tilted against the tub. The needle was still stuck deep in his arm. Just the afternoon before, Frankie had signed a comeback deal. A thin ray of hope flickered after years sliding into darkness. That night, he used drugs to celebrate, to relieve stress, to forget the pressure clinging from a glorious past and shaky present. But he didn't expect his body, once rocking stages, couldn't handle one dose. Heart raced, lungs faltered, blood slowed, skin turned purple. The drug shock lasted just minutes, but behind it was a whole free-fall journey. From a 13-year-old hailed on radio waves, Frankie was soon swept into the vortex of money, fame, and harsh control. Endless tours, stacked contracts left a huge void as glory faded. Drugs appeared as an escape, but really eroded will and body. Only 6 months before death, he had quit. No one expected that stimulant to put the final period on a life torn between expectations and disappointments. 23 Rahaman Ali, Muhammad Ali's loyal brother, faded quietly under Parkinson's shadow. Rahaman Ali was a heavyweight boxer who shared the ring training with Muhammad Ali, sticking close through boxing's hottest phases. He was known as the loyal brother, quietly present behind the spotlight, holding a unique spot in American boxing history. On August 1st, 2025, in Louisville, Kentucky, in his familiar home, Rahaman Ali took his last breath after a shock infection flared from long-term respiratory issues on top of Parkinson's that had worn down his body for decades. From the 1980s, the disease started gnawing at his life. Hands that once clenched gloves now trembled uncontrollably. Feet that once charged boldly into the ring now could only sit helplessly in a wheelchair. In his final years, his memory was just a blank void. Familiar faces became strangers. His body wasted away, skin gray, eyes dull. His bedroom was set up with dozens of machines just to prolong life, but nothing could stop the infection quietly spreading, lungs weakening, dragging all organs to exhaustion. Death came slowly, painfully tormenting day by day. Finally, that body was crushed by time and illness on the hospital bed at 82. 22. Chris Bender, street bullets shattered the R&B dream. Young star slumped in the driver's seat. Chris Bender was a young face catching early attention in R&B, smooth voice, confident vibe, expected to be a fresh breeze in contemporary American music. On the night of November 3, 1991, the Brockton, Massachusetts neighborhood was sunk in familiar quiet. The car parked outside his mom's apartment still had lights on, like always. Chris Bender got home late, casually sitting behind the wheel, mind wandering to recordings, unfinished plans. No one expected that in seconds, all future imaginings would vanish. Shots rang out suddenly, sharp, tearing the night. Car glass shattered, shards flying. Multiple bullets hit Chris. His body jerked for a few short seconds before going completely still. It all happened too fast. He had no time to react, not even to understand what was going on. When police investigated, it turned out to be meaningless street violence, a deadly mix-up ending a life at just 19. Chris Bender's death left a choking feeling as the R&B flame just igniting was unjustly snuffed out. 21. Don Bryant. The Memphis soul spirit faded from heart disease and long-term respiratory failure. Don Bryant was one of the big writers in Memphis soul, behind countless classic tracks, especially the hit I Can't Stand the Rain, leaving a deep mark in black music history and Southern studios. On December 26, 2025, in Memphis, Tennessee, the home usually familiar with music was sunk in heavy silence. Don Bryant took his last breath at 83 after long days battling cardiovascular and respiratory issues. His body had reached total exhaustion as lungs couldn't filter air from recurring infections, heartbeat slowing like it wanted to give up. In his final days, he barely had strength to sit up. His hands trembled in haze, but fingers still unconsciously tapped lightly on the bedsheet, like seeking familiar rhythms. As he neared the end, family was busy with their own things, so no one was at the bedside. The doctor called to notify relatives, but no one made it back in time, leaving him to collapse alone in bitter solitude. 20. Carlton. The funk glow quietly faded from diabetes complications and endless dialysis. Carlton was the name that once lit up dance floors with strong funk, energetic voice, and the hit She's a Bad Mama Jama echoing charts, making him a vibrant icon of pop music. On the afternoon of December 14, 2025, in his Detroit home, there was no hint of holiday bustle as Christmas neared. Carlton had been bedridden for a month, body heavy, breath short and ragged. For years, type 2 diabetes clung tight, quietly eroding every internal organ. Complications piled on. Kidneys weakened, blood pressure always at danger levels. 3 times a week, he was hooked to a dialysis machine for 4 hours. His skin grayed over time, limbs swollen, lungs fluid-filled. In the last days of 2025, Carl's body hit its limit. He couldn't get out of bed, all daily needs depending on caregivers. Though doctors tried their best, ulcers and infections still spread on his wrinkled skin. Finally, his life closed in pain at 72, while everyone was joyfully prepping for Christmas and the New Year. 19. Maurice White. Over 2 decades of Parkinson's eroded the Earth, Wind and Fire soul. Maurice White was the founder and soul of Earth, Wind and Fire, songwriter, singer, and producer behind hits that shook international stages, spreading vibrant and positive spirit across generations. Early morning on February 4, 2016, his Los Angeles home was sunk in silence. His daughter opened the door and brought breakfast as usual, but found her father couldn't wake up anymore. At 74, Maurice White left the world in his sleep. A seemingly gentle death, but behind that peace was a whole, enduring journey lasting over 2 decades. Parkinson's started gnawing his body from the 1990s. At first, light tremors in his hand, then spreading to arms, legs. Controlling his body got hard. He couldn't do anything himself, even simple things like holding a glass of water. By 1994, he had to leave the stage, withdrawing from the work he was proudest of. In his final years, his body increasingly contracted, trembling constantly except in sleep. His voice weakened and broke. Family worried so rarely took him out, but they didn't know the 4-bedroom walls had become a cage speeding his Jingshan exhaustion. Each day was a silent battle behind closed doors, making Maurice feel his soul empty. In his last months, his eyes could barely see, mind muddled from dementia. 18. Jarreau, the jazz master, suffocated in the hospital room. Jarreau was a rare jazz master, globally famous for his unique instrument mimicking technique, conquering jazz, pop, and R&B, winning prestigious awards over a decades-long career. On February 12, 2017, a Los Angeles hospital became Jarreau's final stop. Just 2 days before, he announced retirement due to failing health. Before passing, Jarreau was admitted in severe exhaustion. Years battling respiratory and heart issues had worn him down. Lungs couldn't pump enough oxygen. Every inhale-exhale, a prolonged struggle. On admission, his organs were nearly all failed. Chest tight, breaths rapid, suffocation spreading through his chest, every minute dragging on endlessly. Medical machines surrounded him, working at full capacity, but unable to fully replace a worn-out body's functions. At 76, Jarreau passed from acute respiratory failure right after saying goodbye to fans. The quiet hospital room with droning machines became the place, closing a voice that once captivated millions. 17. Kevin Arkadie, successful kidney transplant turned tragic. Pneumonia suffocation ended the talented writer's life. Kevin Arkadie was a sharp writer for the series New York Undercover, helping bring street stories and black urban life to mainstream TV. On December 17, 2025, in a Los Angeles hospital, Kevin Arkadie lay motionless amid the constant beeps of machines. The kidney transplant, once seen as a fate-reversing win, became the start of rapid, more painful body breakdown. Long-term immunosuppressants left resistance near zero. When pneumonia hit, health plummeted in days. High fever lingered, coughs brought up blood, lungs thickened with phlegm. Blood oxygen dropped deep, ventilator at full, but couldn't stop death approaching. In the ICU, his eyes wide, staring at the ceiling, conscious but panic-clear as his body ignored any brain commands. Those days dragged slow. Death came gradually but cruelly, stripping hope from someone who once believed medicine had saved him from death's scythe. 16. Fuquan Johnson, Venice Beach party night turned nightmare from fentanyl overdose. Fuquan Johnson was a beloved comedian for his natural humor, appearing regularly on stage and entertainment shows, bringing refreshing laughs to audiences. On the night of September 1st, 2021, a private party in Venice Beach was buzzing, bright lights and thumping music pounding ears non-stop. The party had no shortage of fun or stimulants. No one expected that minutes after using cocaine, Fuquan Johnson's body reacted violently. Limbs jerked non-stop, lips turned dark purple, chest heaving chaotically like about to burst. Fentanyl mixed in hit suddenly, clamping the respiratory system, dropping blood oxygen to danger. He collapsed on the floor, breaths ragged, then stopped in the chaos. Two friends who shared the same stuff didn't make it either. 3 deaths turned the fun gathering into a haunting nightmare for survivors, a brutal warning about the cost of using narcotics. 15. Richard Smallwood, gospel icon, collapsed after over a decade of painful dialysis. Richard Smallwood was a gospel pillar, creating hymns spreading through churches, touching faith and emotions of millions of believers. On December 30th, 2025, as the old year's end counted in hours, he lay alone in a Maryland hospital room, body drained after over a decade of dialysis. Each blood filtration session sapped strength over time, leaving sallow skin, arms often trembling from anemia, breaths heavy like weighted down. In final days, he could only lie there, no friends or family caring, everything depending on doctors and nurses. Machines beeped steadily surrounding him, needles and tubes crisscrossing like ropes binding his aged body. End-stage kidney failure squeezed out the last breaths bit by bit. Death came quietly but painfully that he couldn't fight, just helplessly watching his breaths fade. 14. Teddy Pendergrass, colon cancer, closed 28 years of tough fighting. Teddy Pendergrass was a top soul voice, R&B's sensual icon, who dominated stages and sold millions of records. On January 13, 2010, at Bryn Mawr Hospital in Pennsylvania, Teddy Pendergrass's body hit its final limit. Late-detected colon cancer had quietly spread complications everywhere, eroding a body already weak from a 1982 car crash. The wheelchair that bound him for decades sat silent by the bed. Pains from the tumor spread to chest, forcing lungs to max, other organs failing in tow. His skin paled, body wasted. Illness turned a passionate man who exploded arenas into a soulless shell in a cold hospital room. When death came, his body didn't react wildly. No convulsions or clutching chest coughs, like it had willingly let go after 28 years battling cruel fate, tragic accident, and tormenting sickness. 13. Mickey Lee, flu infection. Young star collapsed in bedroom after just days. Mickey Lee was a young face drawing strong attention after Big Brother, representing a new star generation with natural appeal and explosive stage energy. On the morning of December 27, 2025, her Los Angeles home was sunk in unusual heaviness. Mickey Lee had high fever for days straight. Body exhausted. Breaths wheezing like lungs squeezed inside. The seemingly normal flu had quietly wrecked lungs, causing severe inflammation, making her cough blood, every breath stabbing pain. Home ventilator ran constant, but couldn't hold a body sliding fast. When family found her, Mickey was motionless on the bed, skin pale, lips dark purple, hands still clutching chest. In her last moments, she probably writhed in agony. Rescuers tried CPR over 40 minutes in desperation, but it was over. At 35, a young star fell just days after flu, leaving widespread shock in the fan community. 12. John Witherspoon. The laughter went silent from a heart attack. John Witherspoon was an American comedy pillar, familiar face in film and TV, tied to laughter across generations. The afternoon of October 29, 2019 was calm as any. In his Sherman Oaks home, John Witherspoon sat in front of the TV, laughter booming heartily, body fully relaxed after packed schedules. But his heart wasn't. Seconds later, everything flipped. Heart attack hit. His laughter cut off, silenced. Hands clutched chest tight, eyes rolled back, breaths broken. His body crashed to the wood floor, impact echoing dryly in the living room. Heart stopped almost immediately. When family rushed in, his face had paled. Ambulance called in 10 minutes, but efforts were just formal. At 77, the man who made audiences roar with laughter passed right as he was laughing himself. 11. Meshach Taylor. The battle with colorectal cancer ended in agony. Meshach Taylor, a familiar American TV face, made a deep mark with his sharp Sheldon role in Designing Women, once a symbol of grace and smarts on the small screen. On June 28, 2014, at Rancho Mirage Hospital in California, Meshach Taylor entered his life's final hours in a stark white room, disinfectant smell thick in the air. Colorectal cancer, found too late, had quietly spread to liver and lungs, eroding organs. Unrelenting twisting pains with no relief. Final months he wasted visibly, skin yellowed, eyes sunken. Each chemo round shook his body, toxins making limbs uncontrollable, mind flickering between daze and awareness. Death came slow but cruel, closing a long, dragged-out fight in pain and fatigue. 10. Chris Kelly, Criss Cross. Glory shattered from drug overdose. Chris Kelly, essential piece of the kid rap duo Criss Cross, once rocked the world with Jump and their rebellious image, creating memories for a generation. On the gloomy morning of May 1, 2013, family found Chris Kelly motionless on the living room floor in his Atlanta home, body twitching weakly, then stiffening, mouth foaming, breaths broken. Toxins from cocaine and heroin soaked in too fast, hitting the nervous system. Heart raced, then stopped in tens of seconds in extreme pain. At 34, future's light snapped out before him. Death closed a long slide from teen peak to addiction abyss, leaving heavy echoes for his remaining brother and those who grew up with his music. 9. Bobby Womack. Soul legend collapsed with Alzheimer's, cancer, and addiction after Manda. Baz. Ravaging. Bobby Womack, soul legend with emotion-soaked voice, behind countless tracks, shaking generations. On June 27, 2014, at his Tarzana, California home, Bobby Womack took his last breath. Death came gently, but behind was a long path stacked with pain. Alzheimer's eroded memory, shattering every recall in his mind. At passing, he didn't even recognize his kids, but pain wasn't just that. Colon cancer spread fast in half a year. Diabetes complications and decades of addiction remnants teamed up, tormenting every cell. Those years, he was bedridden, living with writhing pains no drug could overcome. 8. Jimmy Ruffin, Motown. Heart stopped on foreign soil, multi-organ failure closed the exile journey. Jimmy Ruffin, globally famous Motown voice with What Becomes of the Brokenhearted, bringing love pains to stage and conquering millions of hearts. On November 17, 2014, in a Las Vegas hospital, Jimmy Ruffin quietly entered life's final stretch. His lungs suffocated like drowning, every breath relying on oxygen tanks. Limbs swollen from congestive heart failure, organs giving up one by one, leading to multi-organ failure. Death came when he couldn't hold on anymore. His body was flown to England for burial, closing a life in exile from the 1970s. But it was just belated respect for the man who sang for millions of broken hearts worldwide. 7. Tammi Terrell, malignant brain tumor took the young Motown voice after 8 horrifying surgeries. Tammi Terrell, explosive Motown female voice, famous for perfect duets with Marvin Gaye, captivating audiences with youthful energy and intense emotions. On March 16, 1970, at Hahnemann Hospital in Philadelphia, Tammi Terrell took her last breath at just 24, closing a brutal fight lasting nearly a decade. Tragedy started in 1967 when she suddenly collapsed on stage amid bright lights and thumping music. Her head pounded like hammers, making her body unable to stand. All from a malignant brain tumor quietly eroding inside. After the day, she crumpled on stage. Operating room doors kept opening. 8 brain surgeries in 3 years, each a life-snatching battle. Final months, her form lifeless, head bald with crisscross scars, vision fading, pain tormenting daily. On that fateful March day 1970, death came with a violent seizure, forever sinking a budding talent into darkness. 6. Arlester Christian, street bullets ended the funk pioneer voice. Arlester Christian was leader of Dyke and the Blazers, making a mark with hit Funky Broadway, icon of American street music. On the afternoon of March 13, 1971, on Phoenix, Arizona streets, Dyke stood chatting with acquaintances. Everything normal until shots tore the air. 6 bullets from a handgun fired consecutively into him. His body jerked a few times, then fell. He clutched wounds, trying to call for help, eyes wide in pain and shock. Passers-by stunned, tires screeching, chaos spreading fast. When police investigated, he had gotten into a drug dispute and was retaliated against. Sadly, those bullets ended a rising funk pioneer's career at just 27. 5. Baby Huey, heroin overdose, drowned the soul voice in a rundown hotel room's darkness. Baby Huey, rare soul voice with thunderous resonance and big influence in black music, once stunning audiences every time he sang. On the evening of October 28, 1970, in a rundown Chicago hotel room after a show, James Ramey crashed onto the narrow bed, his over 400-pound body dropping like a boulder from a peak. Needle still in his arm, sweat pouring, face purple, wheezing breaths lasting only a few, then stopping. Overdose heroin mixed with massive weight and reckless lifestyle pushed his heart to the edge. Next morning, the manager's horrified scream echoed the hallway on finding James dead at 26. 4. Pimp C, purple drank, and sleep apnea caused a brutal death. Pimp C, spiritual leader of UGK, Southern rap icon with unique personality and deeply influential music. On the morning of December 4, 2007, in a Mondrian hotel room in West Hollywood, he was found face down on a white pillow, body still. Sleep apnea combined with excessive codeine cough syrup clamped his heart while deep asleep. No one expected a top rapper to go just from a few spoonfuls of syrup. At 34, his death came quietly, but as a profound warning about loose living and unchecked purple drank habit. 3. Malcolm-Jamal Warner, the ocean swallowed the childhood icon. Malcolm-Jamal Warner, familiar American TV face, globally famous as Theo Huxtable, childhood symbol for generations. On July 20, 2025, at a remote Costa Rica beach, the peaceful resort turned nightmare spot. Malcolm-Jamal Warner went into water alone, swimming freely, but then a sudden rip current appeared. Huge waves slammed him, dazing before pulling him offshore. He struggled in murky water but helpless, body bobbing up and down, filling lungs with salty sea. Nearly 20 minutes later, rescuers got him to shore. By then, body purple, skin cold, breaths gone. Though CPR and chest compressions nonstop for 15 minutes, he didn't wake. At 54, he was gone forever, leaving unforgettable memories of a warm child actor. 2. Lou Myers. The fight with heart failure and pulmonary fibrosis ended in pain. Lou Myers, veteran actor with the Dean role in A Different World, bringing a stern but warm image on screen. On February 19, 2013, Lou Myers lay on a hospital bed in Charleston, West Virginia, skin pale, eyes cloudy, wheezing through oxygen tube. Heart failure and severe pulmonary fibrosis had tormented his body since 1980. Whenever cold hit, he coughed endlessly and often got flu, then acute pneumonia. This time too. Though doctors tried saving, his body didn't improve. The moment his heart stopped at dawn, things didn't go horrific as imagined, but like a hand ready to let go after a long war. Death at 77 ended a quiet, dedicated life, leaving deep regret for audiences and colleagues. But it also ended the torments he endured for decades. 1. Aaliyah. Plane crash turned the R&B princess to ashes in Bahamas swamp. Aaliyah, R&B princess with enchanting voice and rising career, captivating the young music world. On the afternoon of August 25, 2001, on Marsh Harbor Airport runway in Bahamas, the Cessna 402B carrying Aaliyah lifted off a few hundred meters, then plunged straight into swamp. The plane was overloaded by 700 pounds. Pilot showed cocaine use and ignored all danger warnings. Result: plane lost altitude suddenly, slamming ground with screeching metal and fierce flames. All 9 aboard, including Aaliyah, died instantly, bodies charred, nearly unrecognizable. Death came at just 22. Dreams of a bright future closed as her career just took off. So we've just gone through 33 horrifying deaths of black stars, each story haunting, making hearts beat faster and leaving endless sorrow. These tragedies remind us of life's fragility, even for those under stage lights, surrounded by fame and money. If these stories shock you and you want to learn more about other stars, leave a comment sharing your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss upcoming videos, where we keep digging into little-known facts about the lives and deaths of famous figures.